Alright, good afternoon everyone. So it's about that time that I start planting my trees. Hopefully that's the end of the gophers. So from that tree to this one is 10 feet. And then from here to the wall is, 5 feet. So, I mean, when you buy a plant, you will see that it has like a little label or sticker to it, whatever it's called. That tells you, how high it gets, the recommended spacing between them, and so on. But if you take care of them, prune them and everything, you can, have them a lot closer. Because of the space from here to there, this avocado and that guava tree, it's 8 feet, and then it's 5 from here to there. So this is gonna be how to plant a tree. This is my first time, dealing with the soil where, the shovel goes in without a problem. At my other place, if the dirt wasn't wet or, the shovel wouldn't go into the dirt. But here, it's mostly sandy. The shovel, no problem with that. But before, at the other house, where I had no choice but to, I had to wet it, add water, wait for, the dirt to get nice and wet, and then I was able to dig a little bit, and then I would have to keep repeating that because it was very, very compact. It was like almost like clay. And then before you're done digging the hole, so it's not too deep or too shallow, grab your pod, just put it in there in the hole, just so you can see how it looks like right now. Obviously you have to go a bit deeper, so that's what I'm gonna keep doing. All right, so some of you might, you see the hole here, and then you'll be like, all right, good enough. You'll plant the tree or put it in there. But depending on the soil that you have, it may just cause you a little bit of problem. The reason I say this is because if the soil is too compact or pretty hard, not sandy, it holds water, then when you water it, water is going to stay at the bottom. It's going to stay at the bottom, but then at the top it may look dry. It's going to look dry and be like, oh, it needs water. You're going to water it so the top can be nice and wet, but at the bottom the water is going to keep staying there, and you might end up with root rot, and it may just kill your trees. Another thing is the plant, it's used to being in a pot. Part of the roots, how they spin around in circles. Same thing here. If the sides are too compact, or it's pretty hard soil, then the roots may just keep going around in circles because it's nice and soft here, of course, because you've disturbed the soil, and your tree may not grow as fast as it should be, or as healthy as it should. So that's one thing to look out for. So how do you tell if your soil is sandy, or if it holds the water, or if it drains it? Where is it? Here we go. Just grab a 5-gallon bucket, fill it up, and then dump the water in there. Dump the water, and then you can time it to see, how well it's doing with the water. That's one option you can do, or just grab the hose, whatever you want to do. And you can, look into it so you can see a bit better, what it is that I'm talking about. But just know you have options. So that's why when you look at the tag or the label from the trees that you buy, like at Home Depot, Lowe's, or nurseries or whatever, it'll say, hey, dig a hole twice as wide, twice as deep or something like that. But this soil right here is pretty sandy, so I'm not too worried about that. Now one last step that I used to do with whenever I planted my plants is, here we go. So this is just, you know, to show you what I would do. I'll grab an auger and I would drill a bunch of holes. You know, dig a hole. I'll grab my vacuum and, you know, get all this loose soil out, even to the side. So I'm just doing this to show you. So I would make a bunch of holes, you know, going that way, onto the ground, you name it. And then what I would do is I would grab perlite and fill up a couple holes with perlite. I would grab the oyster shells, this for the chickens and, you know, ducks and turkeys and stuff, for the calcium, for the eggs. I would throw that in there, and then I would also, you know, throw sand into individual holes, and I'm talking about, you know, the holes were covered. So I would do that. The reason I would do that is hopefully it provides a place for the roots to, you know, sort of go into those tunnels. If, you know, the sides are too hard or too compact. Also, it serves another purpose. When you water your plants, instead of the water just staying at the bottom level, you know, causing root rot and a bunch of other problems, the water would go into the holes. And since it would go into the holes, it would provide some relief from the bottom of the roots. So that's what I used to do, but this soil is very different. I've never encountered this. So I'm just gonna continue with my example. All right, so now I'm just gonna fill this up with water, simply because I want the dirt around it, you know, to be wet, moist, whatever you want to call it. That way when I plant this one, you know, I don't have to worry about the dirt around it absorbing all the water from the roots, because this is all the roots. That's its life right here. And if anything happens just to this part, it will die, you know, even if it has a lot of space to grow. So I guess like a baby, the first couple of months, years, it's when it's more crucial or very important to take care of it. After that, once it's established, like something like this, then obviously the roots are who knows where, all spread out, and it can, you know, it can forgive a lot more if you forget to water it or something like that. But when it's barely moved from the pot to the soil, you know, gotta take good care of it. All right, now that I have the hole in there, you have two options of how to plant, you know, the tree. The first one is, if the soil or the dirt in the pot isn't too heavy, then just pull it out of the pot. Good enough. Option number one. Option number two, if the soil is too heavy, and you know, if you try and pull out the tree, you may just break some roots. So option number two would be just cut the pot. You will be losing it, but it's just an option. See, as you can see, there's a ton of roots. The soil is wet on this one, and it is a lot heavier than the other one over there. So that's why I'm cutting it. All right. Let's see. You have to cut it, but not all the way. Just enough so that it holds the shape. I'm just trying to see what I can do. All right, so I just scored it. Hopefully there'll be a guide for this to tear it open. Same thing on top. Not gonna go all the way. But just enough to be able to carry it and shove it back in there. Alright, it's a little too deep, so and now it's heavier. Alright, that's that. Now to cut it open. Alright, so right here, you can see where I cut it all the way up, but it's still connected at the bottom. All you need is something to go in between and sever that connection. Take this out. And there it is. So you will lose the pot, but I only do this, you know, when the sole is wet or it's too heavy, whatever. But I prefer to take them out like this one, simply because it saves the pot. You know, now I can use it again for reuse it, whatever reason. This, obviously I can't use it anymore. So two different options. So I'm gonna wrap this up, cover them, protect the dirt right here, because if you have chickens or troublemakers, they may just want to dig the soft soil. That's about it. My preferred method of how to plant a tree. Thanks, everyone.